Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of 7 Degrees of Wisdom and Kesha from at textarot. You guys know that we do this every month, and it's a blast. We love doing this to kind of give you guys some insight on spirituality, tarot, energy, meditation, all of those things. And so we thought, since everything has been kind of crazy and the energy's been chaotic and a lot is going on in our culture right now in the world, we've got, wars and hurricanes and election coming up and all of these things. And we were talking about how it would be a good idea to talk about how to not feed into the chaos and kind of be able to ground and center yourself as all this is going on and not feed into the hype. Okay, kind of give you guys some tips on how to rein in the nerves and the nervous system dysregulation as all this stuff is going on. We got a lot going on astrologically as well. We have massive solar flares coming in. We've got a lot of strange planetary placements. We have a full moon in Aries coming up tomorrow, I believe.
Stop.
I mean, just saying.
I know.
There is a lot going on, and as you guys know, Keisha and I are, we work with the public a lot through a lot of healing. We do tarot readings, and I do mentoring, and so does Keisha, and so we have a lot of people that are coming to us that are just frazzled. Okay, and like, how do I regulate? I had an appointment yesterday with a very young girl, and she was just beside herself. And after the tarot reading, I was called intuitively to teach her some grounding techniques, to help her, and some breathing exercises, to help her through this. So basically, what I had taught her was how to do a simple breathing exercise, which is the box breathing method. You guys have seen this in my previous videos. You put your dominant hand on your heart space, less dominant hand on your solar plexus, and you do a bit of box breathing, which is hold for 4, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And so after I got done teaching her this, she was a lot better, and it helped her almost immediately. Because when you do that, you're assimilating a hug and you're calming your vagus nerve. And so I think we should expand on this and how to, go within and regulate and not feed into all the chaos that's been going on. Keisha, I don't know if you want to speak on this, but really
Mhm.
quickly, we're going to get into how you can book appointments with me and how you can book appointments with Keisha. So you guys can follow my Calendly link. It is in my Instagram page. It's on my YouTube page. So I did that online so that I can reach a lot more people instead of the people just locally. Um, so follow my link tree, and then you can get to my Calendly links, and then you can book in appointments with me online. So if you're having dysregulation, we can both help you with this. We can teach you about meditation, all kinds of different things. So Keisha, tell everyone where they can find you and book appointments with you as well.
Yeah. Best place to find me is on Instagram at textaro. Sending me a DM there or going through the link and sending me an email or a text is fine. My numbers are there. Also, you can find me on YouTube where I have a whole playlist of meditation videos. And
Fantastic, by the way.
oh, yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so meditation videos, numerous and galore on the on YouTube. And also at the beginning of a lot of the videos where I'm talking about if I'm reading from a book or doing some other lesson, we'll usually start that video with a short meditation, and that can be anywhere from, 3 to 7 minutes. So that's also a good place to start if you just need something really quick.
Mhm.
You can just tap into the first part of any of those videos and just get a quick recentering. So to kind of, start at the beginning and all this chaotic energy and what's, trying to make sense of it, I think that's where we probably get the most frazzled in trying to make sense of it all.
Right.
There's just Megan and I are in it because we live a metaphysical life. For those of you who are just coming to it, you're probably getting bits and pieces, and even that's overwhelming. Um, but one of the things that I think is really important, as fun as it is to be curious and to dive deep and to want to know the nexus of everything, and why does this happen and where is this coming from? And if I knew the root cause, I'd be able to fix it. To some degree, yes, that is true with some things. But
Mhm.
with most things, especially with what's hitting us now, if you deal with it where you are, you have a better chance of um, being less resistant to it, right?
Right.
Um, it's just a little too much right now to try to go really deep and figure out where this all comes from. And
Mhm.
if you're experiencing it in your world, one thing you know for sure is that you're a vibrational match to it,
Mhm.
or it has something to teach you. Recognizing, simply recognizing that you're a vibrational match, being able to call something what it is or describe how you're feeling in it instantly begins to take away the negative charge and the sense of overwhelm that's related to it. So that can be your first step, just recognizing, hey, there's a lot going on. Um, to go beyond simply recognizing that you're a vibrational match to it, but to accept that there is a lesson or it has something to teach you, can move us closer to gratitude for the experience rather than, "Oh, why is this happening to me? Why does this always happen? Why is it, um, when you can instantly call it, all right, there's something good here. I don't know what it is yet,
Mhm.
but I know that if it's coming at me, it's an opportunity for something. It's an opportunity for my growth. It's an opportunity for me to learn something, to resolve karma of the past. I think that's a really big one. You don't necessarily have to know what the karma of the past is to accept that, especially for those of you who are, coming to these disciplines and you're coming to it because you've seen the rainbows and you've seen the sparkles, right? And you're
Mhm.
looking forward to that and you want that. But as soon as you start, all this muck comes up, all this nonsense. Well,
Mhm.
that's because you're clearing house and you're now given the signal that you are open to clearing, which means creating a little bit of dust and debris. It means, okay, I'm ready to resolve some of that karma I've been holding on to and using my energy to keep at bay. I'm now releasing that and it's made itself known and so I have to deal with it. Those are all points of and opportunities for gratitude, which again takes that negative charge out of it because now you can look at it as a friend. You can look at it more
Mhm.
benevolently, which moves you from being resistant to non-resistant. Um, I don't know how many of you could stand a 30-foot wall of water coming at you, but if you were standing with both feet like squarely firm and you're going to say to the water, I'm going to, stand here and you're not going to get past me, the water's going to just bowl you over and probably break every bone in your body because you're so rigid trying to hold that posture.
Mhm.
Whereas if you were to see the wave coming and you're like, okay, I can kind of time it, I see what it's coming, I'm just going to lay back and relax into it and let my relaxation float me to the top of the wave and bring me to shore,
Mhm.
that's a much safer posture. And that's the difference between resistance and non resistance. And
Right.
so resistance allows us to flow on that stream and take that wave, not as it's crashing into us, but allows us to rise above and ride on it. So, the first step is going to be in the mind. When we move into more practical steps, probably the first one is don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything you hear, especially what's going on in your head.
Yep.
Um, because what you're seeing and what you think you're hearing are bits and pieces of what's the outside world, coupled with bits and pieces of your own inner confusion because you haven't mastered self yet.
Yeah.
And so it's very and then of course we throw the ego in there because it's so sure that it its role is to tell you everything to do and tell you what's right. But the ego is not the navigator. The ego is a tool to help you navigate your greater wisdom that comes from that. the cultivation of stillness and space, is your navigator, not your ego. So when you combine the ego, shards of nonsense from the outside world, spiritual and emotional debris that you're carrying within you, and you put all that together, you can't help but feel weighted down. You can't help but feel confused because everything is muddy.
Yeah.
And so, again, so much of this happens in the mind and in the heart. Um, Question what it is you think you're seeing. Don't accept it simply as true. Begin to ask it questions. A lot of times, especially, so right now, there's going to be a lot of political discourse, right?
Hmm.
And people will say things as if it is hard truth and fact. Don't be thrown by someone's presentation. Listen to their words, right?
Hmm.
And going a step beyond that, ask questions. Where did this information come from? Is that a trustworthy source? Um, and as you begin to ask those questions, if the person in front of you is starting to falter and they're going for, you know, they're answering in vague generalities, then you can already for yourself begin to discern, okay, maybe this isn't the truth that I initially thought it was. And then that's an opportunity for you, depending on how important it is to you, to go read some other articles or to talk to other people or to get a more, all-encompassing and more balanced view. Again, key word there is if it's important to you. Because if the first thing you think of when I say go do your own research is it's not worth it, then it's also not worth it for you to hold those thoughts in your head from somebody else telling you what's true. Like,
Exactly. I'm
yeah,
so glad you're bringing up discernment because that is a huge theme now. You know.
it's everything.
Yes.
It
Yes.
really, really is. And we have to go beyond listening with our eyes and our ears and move into that heart space and really think about, is that is that person coming to me with an agenda? And if so, does that agenda align with my thoughts and beliefs? Is there room here for me to see it differently? Is there room to explore a different pathway? And again, it goes back to what's important to you. Not everything is. And I think because we live in such an information society and attention society,
Hmm.
everybody wants to tell you that everything is important. And not everything is. It just
Hmm.
simply isn't. Um, Something I will say, like when I we're too quick to call people friends when really they're acquaintances. But then I
Hmm.
remember I step back and I'm like, if I died today, would somebody come to my funeral tomorrow? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
they wouldn't even send condolences or think where to send them to. So why would I give that person that much of my attention? And that comes into the next obvious step that nobody wants to hear, which is get off social media. Um, which I know it's funny even for me to say that because I do my work on Instagram, I do my work on YouTube. Um, but the doom scrolling, the endless hours of scrolling,
Hmm.
you are taking the most valuable resource you have, which is your time and your attention,
Right.
and you're giving it to a bunch of nonsense, right? That's
Yeah.
not going to have any bearing on your forward motion and progress.
It's going to
Now, of
give you more
course,
anxiety.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly, because they have to ratchet it up, and that's going to take us into a conversation on hurricanes, but we'll get to that in a second.
Hmm.
Um, it's great if you can set yourself a limit and like, okay, I'm going to use this time to decompress. But when you think about if you're going to give yourself 5 to 10 minutes to decompress, I would I would posit to you the question of would you feel better? Do you think you'd feel better if you spent that 5 to 10 minutes just stopping to breathe, stopping to go for a walk,
Hmm.
stopping to do yoga? Would that be a better use of your time and give you a greater exponential return than simply scrolling on your phone?
Yeah.
And I know I sound like a crazy parent when I say that, but it really is. eating up so much of us in ways that we don't quite see and understand because no one before us has had this onslaught.
Hmm.
But you really do. The only way you can practice discernment is if your slate is clean, is if your cup is empty. And if you've been scrolling all day and reading news from your preferred source, because no one ever chooses to read the opposite view,
Hmm.
then your cup is always overflowing and it's always too much and you're always overwhelmed. And one of the ways that we release that is by the breath. You know, box breathing is fantastic.
Hmm.
It's in the movement because oftentimes when we are hit with information, when we're hit with something traumatic, what do we say? That took my breath away. That's
Yep.
breathtaking. It like
Hmm.
we stop for a moment when we're caught by something, right?
Yeah, or even hold our
And
breath.
yes, like, and I, or in that phrase, you know, I'm holding my breath, I'm sitting on pins and needles. That's
Hmm.
going to keep you in a state of suspended animation where if you, that's the practice response, then you stay in this state of anxiety and paralyzation. And it really is giving yourself space to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can tell, like, I say these things and I practice these things. And yes, I do a morning meditation or, you know, morning yoga. But even I get caught up, and I can tell, and it's always the funniest thing to me. At the beginning of when I sit down to do a video and I do the meditation to tap in, as soon as I sit down and start to breathe, I'm like, I'm so glad I
Yeah.
decided to film a video. Like, if it wasn't for that responsibility and impetus, I would have missed the opportunity to take a minute for myself because I too get wrapped up in all the things I need to be doing.
Hmm.
And so if learning from the experience of other people can be of help to you in moving forward and standing still, then that is definitely the thing to take away. Just to put the phone down and to come back to your breath. Check in with yourself. Breathe into the bottoms of your feet to the top of your head. With each in breath, pick up any stress or anxiety and let it out with an audible sigh. Um, those seem there is nothing ever more advanced than the basics. Don't let anybody tell you differently, right?
That's absolutely 110% true. Back to basics every time.
And
It
every
works.
single time. And what is the most basic thing we do? The first thing we've ever done in our lives? We took a breath.
Yep.
And it's, we don't talk about that enough because there's no profit from it. But that is going to be the thing that gets you through. So we kind of touched on this already, and we've had a couple of hurricanes and you know, extreme weather events. I happened to be in Orlando, so Helene was kind of off to the side. Milton was slated to be, you know, kind of in my area, but it turned out not to be as bad as the forecasts were. Um, I, like a lot of people, started getting texts and phone calls from friends and family. Hey, the storm seems really bad. Are you going to evacuate?
I
And
thought
it
you were in
was,
Atlanta. I don't know
oh,
why I thought that. I
I
thought you
give off
were
big
in
Atlanta
it.
energy. I get it. No, that's fair. That's fair. But I'm actually in Orlando, and
Okay.
yeah, the idea, like, you know, people that aren't here, and I've been a Floridian for 20 some years, so it's not like I haven't seen a storm or two. Um, and I get the well-meaningness of people that don't know seeing the news and being concerned for
Mhm.
their people and thinking, oh, you must leave. But for those of us who are here, there's a completely different calculus that goes on. And evacuation, while that seems like a very easy word to say, is not so easy to do in practice.
Oh, no.
And for a number of reasons, not the least of which is evacuation requires resources. It requires
Yes.
a certain freedom in your work that you can leave it for a couple of days because if your boss is telling you, I expect you to be back here the day after the storm, you can't evacuate and get somewhere and be back in time for work. And everybody's concerned about their job because that's where you're going to pay the bills. It's going to need, I mean, it's just, there's so much that goes on with that. At the same time, you want to be safe and you want to be smart and you want to do what's best for you, but it's hard to know that when you're getting all these reports. And yes, there is tremendous value in seeing the news and seeing the reports and seeing that, having an idea of what's to be expected. But when we have this wall-to-wall coverage telling us that it's going to be the most catastrophic storm to ever hit in the last 50 years or whatever the language is that they choose,
Mhm.
people need to remember that as much as the news offers us insight and information, they're also trying to make money.
Mhm.
And storms, things that will keep people glued to their TV, is a tremendous source of revenue with advertising. And it's
Yeah.
hard to discern that in the middle of what's happening because you feel like I need to be prepared. I need to have this information. But at 5 and 25 after the hour, no new information has been given. So if you got that at 5 after, you can turn it off because by the 8, by, minute 8, they've already told you everything you need to know. And I know that's hard in the moment because everybody feels so glued to these things. And it's like watching a train wreck or driving more slowly by an accident, even though you're not involved. It's like, it's engaging in the most primal of ways. Um, but it's also a bit to your detriment because it keeps you paralyzed from being able to act, from being able to think and then act accordingly. Not to mention, we get these reports 3 and 4 days out, a week out, depending on, what the
Mhm.
storm system is doing. And so we sit and we brace ourselves and we start to spin these stories of what if. And it's like, as much as the storm is brewing 1,000 miles away from us, out in the middle of the ocean, not touching anybody, it's already brewing inside of us. And we're holding that energy and it's exhausting.
Yeah. I
And I
even fell prey to the hype there for a little bit before I checked myself because I was scrolling and checking the news
yes,
and crying. And I was like, oh my God, what are all these people going to do? And my heart was going out to them. And I got myself worked up,
easy. And
you know?
and I have to say that there was something different about this storm than any other storm I've lived through or heard reports of. And I haven't figured out why that's been the case, but something about it just seemed, I don't know if it was because of the timing that we had just seen Helene and seen the destruction, and that it
Hmm.
happened so quickly that there wasn't time to recover.
Hmm.
Um, if because of the escalation of conflict around the world, like that's being ratcheted up. Um, we do have so much more happening as we get closer to the election in the US. I don't know, like all those things maybe fed into it, but it seemed like there was more anxiety prior to the storm than I've
Hmm.
generally seen um,
And
in
that's what
in
got
previous.
me. That's what
Yeah,
got
and
me.
it got people who were so much further away um, than the normal calls from family and friends.
Mhm.
Um, it was just a very different kind of storm, and I feel like even afterwards. Um, Like with me personally, I had zero interest in going outside. So the storm happened Thursday. I didn't go outside and open my front door again until Sunday. Like that, even for me, is a little unusual.
Mhm.
Um, uh, and it was the whole week of like I had to take time away from doing readings because
Mhm.
tapping in the collective energy was just too chaotic with what I was dealing with.
Right.
Um, and I just had to lay low to have the energy to do the work that was the most important. Um, and for me, and this is something that I think other people can take and use as an example, we often talk about praying for world peace or praying for things. I want I want peace in the Middle East, and I want, these really big concepts, right? I'm going to pray
Mm.
for that. I'm going to send you prayer for that. Your prayer can only be as big as your consciousness.
Yeah.
And your prayer is going to fill the need of the vessel that you've intended for it. So if your prayer is for world peace, then the vessel is the world and all of the nooks and crannies of depravity and lack that keep people from feeling peace. As big as the world is, as many people as there are, as much lack and depravity as there is, for you to issue a prayer from your limited consciousness, there isn't a way for you to see the results of that prayer because it's got to go so far, so broad, so deep that it would never rise to the surface for you to be able to see it. And so, even though people collectively say, I'm going to pray for world peace, it's too big for any one person or collective to do if they haven't mastered peace within themselves, their
There.
family, their
Mm-hmm.
community. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it starts from within out. And so I have, training in these things I do, you shall do in greater, is what Jesus said, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when the storms are raging and he goes out and he walks on the sea and calms the storm, these things I do, you shall do in greater. One of my homework, like exercises in seminary, was to control the weather. And I forget what aspect of that I did, but I know I did the homework and I know I controlled the weather, whatever that week was. So that gave me insight into my own personal power, right? And what I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to do as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward these many years, I've strengthened my spirit and my ability. And what made sense to me in this storm was to pray for me to be safe, for my property to be safe, for my mother, who's also in town, for
Mm-hmm.
her and her property to be safe, and another good friend of mine who's in a completely different part of town, for her and her property to be safe. And there's a little lake feature outside of my office, and I
Mm-hmm.
could see that the banks were going to rise. And for the people who were on the first floor, my concern was that they were going to be flooded. And though I don't live on the first floor, I wouldn't want that to happen to them. So I
Right.
watched the lake rise, and so my prayers included prayers for me, my property to be safe, my mom, safe, property safe, my friend, her and her property, and then these people on the first floor that were, being that could have been impacted by that lake. Um, n- Knowing that if I could hold space and energy for that in the midst of this storm, then that benefits not just me, but those around me as well, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not just me. And so that much I could do. Like I knew going into it that I didn't have the energy to still the whole storm because these storms also have their place and their purpose. So I
Mm-hmm.
can ask for the energies to do their perfect work in their divine order, but I can also ask that we be held safe from negative impacts. And so that was my prayer, and that's how I handled the storm. I came through fine. My car, though it looked like it was about to be flooded, it turned out, though the water was like, I don't know, it was like 6, 7 inches deep. Um, my car was parked on an elevation where only the bottoms of the tires were touching water. Like, okay, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Usually my parking lot is full and there's never any space. Like like, ugh, I hate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of parking space because obviously people decided to be elsewhere. And I'm like, well, I could move my car to a different spot. But then I'm like, wait a minute. You can run into something trying to run away from something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so this is why I say when you're confronted with something big, the first issue is not to panic because you need all your
Right.
wits about you. You need to stand still, you know?
Yeah.
Fear not, stand still. So I left my car where it was. And because we'd had the storm previously, my rationale was that, okay, um, if we were going to lose any branches, if things were going to fall, that would have happened during the last storm that was much more serious. So
Hmm.
I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to trust that I'm going to be okay. Um, the storm pretty much passed by about 4:30, so I was up all night just kind of watching everything and, praying for everybody.
Hmm.
And the next morning, I did go to sleep for a few hours, and when I woke up, I looked outside of my window, and just in front of my car, a bunch of tree branches, like big ones, had fallen, but they fell right in front of my car. Didn't touch me, didn't touch the three cars that were next to me. They fell inside of a gated area, away
Hmm.
from anyone else. And I had already seen, because I was up the whole night, that the water from the lake was about 8 inches to a foot shy of being able to flood somebody's apartment. That energy held, right? I talked to my mom, just a little bit of debris in the yard, nothing major. And my concern was that there would have been water because, I mean,
Hmm.
water's that thing. Same thing with my friend. And their surrounding areas were also not impacted. So I say all of that to say that, again, you can only hold the energy of the prayer that's within your level of consciousness.
Hmm.
Do what you can do. If your prayer is going to have to fill a vessel, then you define that vessel by the intent and by naming, I want world peace. I want to see peace within myself. I want to see peace in my family. And even that's your immediate family, or I want to see peace in my extended family, right? If you can hold space for those things, and then because it's a finite vessel, you can see the result, that
Hmm.
strengthens your sense of power and what you know you're able to do. And then
Absolutely.
you can apply
Hmm.
that to larger and larger entities,
Yes.
right? And that is how we reclaim our power from all of this chaos. And it's interesting because the first part of the week, I was like Sunday, Monday, I was dealing with my own like energies and, solar flares and all this other nonsense. By Tuesday, Wednesday, it was, fuck, I got to deal with the storm. Wednesday, Thursday, I'm holding energy for the storm. Thursday, I was exhausted because spiritual work can be exhausting, even though I asked that it come not of me, but through me. It's still, you're holding energy in this space for it. So Thursday, Friday, exhaustion. Saturday, it was the exhaustion of holding space in the storm, which was a different feeling than the exhaustion of what was happening in my world. And then, Saturday, Sunday, it started to abate. By Sunday, I started to feel like myself again to some degree. And we right into Monday, Tuesday, which you all don't know. Last Thursday, Megan and I were supposed to have done our podcast. But in
Yeah.
the morning, we were like, no, dude,
Yeah. I was
we,
exhausted. She was exhausted.
and this was
It
even,
was.
yeah, like it was just, there was no way to do that. Um, but by Monday, Tuesday, I'm back to filming videos. I'm back
Hmm.
to doing readings. And I don't have all of my power back yet, but I have enough that I can be in the world and be of assistance again.
Hmm.
And it's just, you have to know what you can do and not try to solve everything else. Like, I know there are still bigger problems in the world,
Hmm.
and my car not being impacted is hardly, important to any of those things. But it's important to the world that I have to navigate. And so for that reason, I have to protect it. But by having done this work, I now know that it is within my consciousness to affect a greater area than just me and my people because I've done
Right.
that.
Right.
And, you know, there is something to be said for, and I feel like I've talked about this a lot lately. Um, when you can look at something and name it, you begin to take the negative charge away from it because
Hmm.
it's no longer this nebulous set of ideas or this nebulous feeling. When you really look at it and can begin to define it, it takes away all the sharp edges. it loses its power to be, because if you can name it, you can start to deal with it.
Yeah.
And it, because
Awareness is key.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's what allows you to then begin to think on what resources do I need to overcome this?
Mhm.
What within me needs to see it differently? What within me needs to change? What within me, what can I give? You know, and oftentimes, I think fear and control are probably on the same spectrum,
Mhm.
right? Where if we're trying to be in absolute control of something, it's because we fear it. Whereas if we were to be, if we were to recognize what it is and to allow it, that's our own power expressing, and we have no reason to fear it because we realize what we've overcome before. We've had those resources. We were able um, to meet that situation successfully. We can remember that we can meet it again. And so when I see somebody who's like, I'm a control freak or I'm a perfectionist, it's like, no, really, you're just living in fear. But then it's
Mhm.
like, okay, so fear of what?
Right.
And then from there you can begin to, okay, well, is that fear really rational? Based on my experiences, has that really been how things go? And even if it has been, how would I do things differently if I wanted to see a different outcome and wanted to change it? But none of those questions can be asked if you're staying in the place of I must control it or I'm in complete fear of it. It's the naming of it that gives you the power to begin to deal with it. And so once you recognize it and have defined it to some degree, and you're like, okay, I'm no longer going to spend my energy avoiding it and not dealing
Mhm.
with it and not looking at it, then
Mhm.
you free yourself up to apply the energy and discipline needed to actually deal with it. And then you find that you have more than enough energy and resources.
Yeah.
But it takes, you know, um, trusting yourself and trusting in a better outcome for you to say, okay, I'm going to let go a little bit. I'm going to try this differently. I'm not going to live in fear of it. I'm going to, I'm tired of this. And um, that's a particularly potent message and idea, I think, today, as we talk about moving into this full moon in Aries
Mhm.
and the end of this, Pluto and Capricorn,
Yeah.
that 16-year cycle of whatever has been vexing you for the last 16 years. Today would be the day to let go of all vexation. Like,
Yes.
this would be the day, anything that you are absolutely tired of, that you are done with, because you've had, and I think that's why the energy has been so um, tight and serious these last few weeks, because it's been coming up for release, right?
Yes.
It's a tremendous opportunity. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and just like tell everybody's future, right? You've been
Yeah.
dealing with the same bullshit for the last like month or two that you've
Mhm.
been dealing with the last 16 years, but it's been to like a higher level in a different degree, right? Like,
Right.
and nobody's gotten away from it, and that's why it feels like, again,
Mhm.
but it's coming up for the last time so that you can prove your mastery over it and be in agreement that you are in fact done with it. Because
Right.
I think so often when we're challenged, especially when we're challenged by the same thing again and again, there's a certain sense of familiarity with it. And we'd
Yeah.
rather take those challenges rather than something new, because I don't know what that's going to look like. So I'll just deal with these same problems again and again because
Right.
I got the muscle for it. I got the memory for it. I can do that.
Right.
It's time to move out of your comfort zone. It's
Yes.
time to be done with that nonsense that has plagued you for the last 16 years. And if
Yes.
it's been building in this last 2 months, and we've been saying, like, all the readings have been, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, just stay focused, it's coming.
Mhm.
And it's been coming for a while, and then you're like, fuck it, I want it to be here already. But you can't get there until you are completely done with this set of lessons.
Yes.
And you are going to have to declare your freedom from them and
Yes.
take your mastery, you know? Um,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
this is the time, like, where I think was it our last reading where I said something about the Eight of Wands where you put your
Yes.
stake in the ground? Like,
Yep.
we're still in that moment, but this is like, I'm declaring this done,
Yeah.
and I've had enough practice that I'm gonna mount this bitch and be done with it. Like, enough
Yeah.
already. Like, the only lesson that is here for me is my complete awareness and knowing of my mastery of it. That's all you have for me now. And since I know that's what it is, and that's the only thing I'm willing to accept, because failure is not an option. We know too much. Like,
Right.
we've been through too much. We've had too much practice that failure is not even remotely possible. We are too close to the end that success is all there can be. So if we know that, then let me just go ahead and be grateful for overcoming. Let me be
Right.
grateful in advance of, because I know there is no other option here. There is no God but God. Be still and know that I am God in this experience. Fear
Mm-hmm.
not, stand still. Like, we can recite all the verses, but they all come back to, was it before you said your prayer, I have answered it. Because you have known my name, I will deliver you and honor you. Like, we come to
Yeah.
the end, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that that's
Yeah.
that's that's where we are, and that's what we should be ready to step into. And if we're not there, then, I mean, well, there are two options. You fall back and don't make this jump. That would really suck. That would really
Yeah.
suck.
Yeah. And then you
The good
start all
thing that
over again from the beginning.
the only good thing
Mm-hmm.
about that would be that, okay, now you know for sure that you can do this. You just got to do it the next time. That other
Yeah.
option is to just decide, no, this is getting done today. We're done.
Yes.
I'm not taking this into this new life that I have been planning for myself for so long. My efforts are not going to come back to me void. This is when, the sun is going to shine for me. And you
Yeah.
just have to declare yourself done with that, and be grateful for all of the lessons and how much it's brought you in terms of the richness of your life, because it's made you a better, stronger person, and look with wonder about what new thing is going to be created. I've noticed recently in my last couple of readings, I keep getting the Page of Cups.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't done the reading for today, but yesterday's reading was the Tower. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, 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 we know about that. The Ten of Wands. And in this case, I was
Mm-hmm.
using the Legacy of the Divine deck. So, Ten of Wands, he's got all the wands on his back. He's coming through the thicket, but you get the feeling like there's an opening. And he's about to come through the other side of the thicket and be able to
Yep.
stand up
Drop
and
the
put
burden.
and
Drop
drop.
the
Yeah,
burden.
exactly. That's the Ten of Wands. And then we had Three of Cups.
Celebration.
Celebration in community. Like, there's a
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of us who have been doing this work, and we were about to celebrate, and, like, we need to
Mm-hmm.
embrace our community.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I was like, man, it's supposed to be a three-card reading. I would have been happy there, but it turned out to be four, and the fourth card was the Page of Cups. And I'm like, oh, so something new is about to be presented. Something new is about to pop up and show us something,
Yes.
know? And
Yes.
it's like, do I get a break? Well, that's what the celebration is. But in
Mm-hmm.
truth, when you step onto this path, we don't encourage you to stand still and stay where you are. It's always put one foot in front of the other. And every
Yeah.
time you do, it's a new environment,
Yeah.
right? And the hobbits don't get out of the Shire if they don't go past the point that's the furthest point they've ever been. And yeah,
Right.
they had all that craziness that happened,
Mm-hmm.
but they also get to come home triumphant. So,
Yeah.
not that I ever expected that Lord of the Rings would be something I would have referred to, but it's
Oh.
it's just it's a really good visual for kind of where we are and what we're doing. And
Yeah.
I'm I'm excited to be in celebration with my community, with those of us who have said, I'm here, I'm going to do the work of perfecting myself, I'm going to be a priest, which is another name for an example,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we have come through this together. And I've got to be excited about us having come through. And on the other side of that will be something else. It'll be that new space that we're stepping into. It'll be an opportunity um, for new growth and exploration, and it'll have its own challenges, but it's also going to have a different level of rewards because we said yes to ourselves and decided to level up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people when they're starting out on their spiritual path, they feel that, oh, all this work I'm doing, it's not giving me any immediate results. But what they don't realize is that this happens over time and there's ebbs and
Hmm.
flows and there's cycles. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but therein lies the key to the success, the growth, and the ascension.
Hmm.
Okay. Is when you do the work and then something like this happens and it sucks when you're in it and you can get lost. But when you look back in hindsight, you're like, ah,
Yeah.
that's why this happened. I couldn't see it in the moment, but I was able to deal with this in a completely different way than I would have if I wasn't doing the work. That's one thing I want to impress on people is when you start really doing the work, the results are not tangible or immediate in the moment. This comes later on and it pays in dividends over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to bring up with feeding into the hype and feeding into everything. So, um, for those of you that aren't familiar with the term egregore, okay, so egregores are the occult entities that govern over human destiny. They are actually thought forms that get fed by belief systems, psychic energy, emotion, all of these things that we feed into it. And I think that we have, especially in this modern world, so many egregores that created, especially in times like this that we're talking about,
Hmm.
where people are constantly feeding into the fear and feeding into the chaos. What you're actually doing is you're cutting yourself off from spirit. You're cutting yourself off from your inner self. You're cutting yourself off from introspection, and you are feeding it into this entity, which creates an endless loop or a cycle of negative thought loops, and it feeds into your anxiety. So, what we're trying to say here, and we're not trying to take away from the pain and the trauma of things that happen to you. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah. We're not
Because,
glossing over it. Like that's real.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it's very real for a lot of people. What we're trying to say is if you do the work and do what Kesha was talking about, if you go within, do the meditations, do your yoga, do your work, when these things happen, you can see them from what they really are. She spoke about that in the beginning. Okay. Discernment, seeing these things. There are horrible things that happen all the time to people, and we are not downplaying that in any way, shape, or form. What we're saying is when you let these things rule your life to the point where you are in nervous dysregulation, your nervous system is in dysregulation, you're actually compounding the problem to the point. So, just like Kesha said, she figured out what was going on. And I had a major breakthrough when all this was going on, and I was guilty about feeding into the hype too, because my heart went out to all of these people because I knew that they were in this cycle of being afraid and being scared. And then it dawned on me at one point, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to send my love out to that area from my peace within and do as much as I can as far as that goes through self awareness and recognition. And I had a major breakthrough, and I thought, you know what? No, they need me to be calm, to participate in the collective consciousness of everyone, to come from a place of peace and calm and love from within, from myself, because they always say Get the inside right, and the outside will follow. The world is too big, just like she talked about praying for world peace. The world is too big for you to help everyone.
Yeah.
So if you get yourself right, you are contributing more powerfully to the people that need it, or the collective that need it, or those around you in your immediate family, and you create a domino or a ripple effect outwards. I had a client come to me and he was so worked up over the economy. He was upset, he was crying, and I was trying to get the point across to him that you have to get yourself regulated and yourself okay. That way you can be in the right headspace on emotional, mental, and spiritual level to make this go okay for you, so that you don't feed in to all of this, because you've got to be in the right place. And that's what we're talking about here. Okay. We're not downplaying the pain and trauma of all these things and the horrible things that are happening. But the only thing you can control, you cannot control the actions of other people, the actions of natural disasters. The only thing you can control is your reaction to the stimuli. Okay. So when you do that and you're able to regulate yourself, that's where the magic happens. And those are the results that you're going to see that we keep talking about. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That's what I wanted to add to that. And it's taken me years and years and years to learn this. We're still human. We're not perfect. We still have our moments too. Just because we're on this spiritual path and metaphysical path doesn't mean we're not human and we don't have steps back and things like that. But the difference is we can recognize it through awareness and flip the script. Okay. And so
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to impart here when we have these conversations about all of these things. You can flip the script. And when you change your perception of the situation, you are calmer and you are more in line with your divine self, so that you can handle these things in a better way. Because when stuff like this happens, somebody needs to be calm. It's just like, how they talk about when some people are just calm, cool, and collected when shit's hitting the fan, because they're the voice of reason. They're the ones that can kind of, okay, let's quell this a little bit. Let's do this, this, and this, and let's just breathe. Let's just breathe. Let's just breathe into this, because we are all connected on the collective unconscious. So we need to bring that in so that we can affect it on a bigger level. I mean, that's where I'm coming from it. And it took me a second, took me a day or two.
Hmm.
And then I was able to regulate myself back down and say, okay, I'm going to do what I can do and not feed into all of this. Right. So that's where I'm coming from with this. That's my perception of it all. And so I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, man, if we could just have a moment of silence
Yeah.
and just breathe, I think that's, again, it's so basic, but it's so necessary, and it's the thing we get away from first because we think we
Yeah.
have to do in order to affect um,
Yeah,
change and
because when you're
outcomes.
emotional, you don't think straight. That's scientifically
Yeah.
proven. I mean, and on a spiritual level as well. When you are emotional and you are dysregulated, you cannot think straight, and then the only thing you know is to feed right into it.
Yeah.
Right? So what we're saying is come back to center, use your discernment, think about the source, think about, what's really going on. And when you calm yourself internally, then you can start to think straight and you can start to use your discernment on a higher level. And that's what
One
this is all about.
one thing I'll add too about meditation, um, when you're in the midst of it, of whatever you're going through, um, meditating was pretty hard. because
Yeah.
there's just too much going on. And the idea of quelling the mind and stopping the thoughts is just like, no.
Yeah.
The benefit I think you find is that when you have a regular meditation practice, even if it's just 5 minutes a day that grows to 10 minutes a day, that
Hmm.
grows and grows and grows, you have that touchstone in that practice
Yep.
for those days when, like on just a regular day, right? It's just a regular
Yes.
part of the day. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So that when you meet those moments of chaos, if all you can remember is to take a second to breathe, the benefit of all of that meditation practice that you've built up, it shows up in
Yes.
that you had the thought, I'm just going to breathe for a second. It doesn't mean that if you've been practicing meditation for months and months and months, and then you're hit with something chaotic, that you suddenly need to sit down and do an hour-long meditation.
Yeah.
If when that chaos hits, you take a minute and like, I just need to breathe. That
Yeah.
is your months of meditation paying off. And
Yes. That's what I was getting at.
if you
Hmm.
can only sit and do it, 3 breaths, man, it's sometimes all it takes. And that seems like really yeah, 3 breaths. If you can be intentional for 3 breaths,
Hmm.
that can put you in a whole different space.
Yes.
But you won't know what that feels like if you haven't cultivated some sort of practice. And
Yes.
so that's
Discipline.
why, yeah, that's why it's important to start the practice not when you're at a 10, but when, you're at a 3 or a 5 and things could just be better and you want to try something new. Like
Perfect.
that's when to
Hmm.
do it so that you have something to lean on when things get to a 20, right? Like
Yes.
that's
Yes. Yes. I'm
that's how
so
you
glad you said that. That's what I was trying to get
Mhm.
across, and you said it a little bit more eloquently than I do. But when we're mentoring, we teach this to our students, and sometimes we forget how to explain like exactly that
Yeah.
process. But it takes a lot of self discipline, and you don't got to go when you're first starting. Don't do some long 20, 30, 40 an hour long. That comes later, but what we're
Yeah.
trying to get at is when you make it a a practice every day, it just becomes a sort of a discipline, and then that way it shows up when you need it to. That's what I meant by you don't see the results right away.
Yeah.
You see them when the shit hits the fan, and then you're like, "Oh yeah,
And
okay,
even if you only get 10% of that,
right,
that 10% is everything. So
yes,
it's just um yeah, and I think we're gonna need more of that. It's funny because I'm finishing up a series on my YouTube channel. We've been reading this book, Asking It Is Given, and it was 22 processes to help you um, well, navigate life, basically. And I'll film the last video after this, and they'll be up through the end of November. So I'm starting to think about what's next. And I think at this point, I've read at least 2 or 3 books on my channel, and I'm like, I think it's time. I think it's time. Oh my God, you're hearing, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I think it's time that I share with you all the book that I am working on. And
okay,
it is precisely the type of book for these moments. Megan, do I have a second to just talk about this?
absolutely,
Okay.
yes, please,
Yeah, okay. So, um this was, I guess, sometime this year, last year, maybe it was last year. Time means nothing anymore, right?
yeah,
Anyway, I'd had a really hard weekend where I just sat and rotted on the couch all weekend. I couldn't do anything, was absolutely dead inside and pretty lifeless outside. And it lasted, Friday afternoon through Monday morning, like it was all damn weekend. And I don't know exactly what happened that I came out of it, but Monday morning, I walked into my office, and you all see my office.
yeah.
I
You guys
walked
see
in,
my library too.
I walked in and I went to the bookshelf and I'm like, and I knew exactly what book I was looking for. It was a spiral bound book, and it had a bunch of different processes and lists and things to help deal with a depressive episode. And my books are arranged in a particular order. And so when I walked up to the bookshelf, I went exactly to my mental health section.
Mhm.
And I went to like literally I had my finger like to pull it down, and I'm looking and there's no book there. But I had seen very clearly in my mind, I knew exactly what book it was. I knew exactly what I needed. And I
Mhm.
knew exactly where to go, like where it would be on my bookshelf. And I went to pull it down and it wasn't there. And I'm looking and I go through all the books and I'm looking through all of them, like, where the hell is it? Like, it's supposed to be here.
Mhm.
And when I looked through all the books and I realized the book isn't there because I need to write it. The book isn't there. I've seen it. I know exactly what I need. It's not here because no one's written it yet. No one has written exactly this kind of thing. So I was like, oh, I mean, I have to do this work. Like, so I ran for myself for a while because I mean, I'm still human. And then finally I was just like, no, I need this book, obviously, because I have reached and several times since that particular day and like the day I decided to actually start, I had gone to the bookshelf looking for it because I knew what it needed to be and what I needed. And so I finally started, and the idea, and I'm calling it in my mind, and this may still be the title, I don't know yet, a depressive episode manual. And it is spiral bound, and the reason is because the idea is that when you get the book, you first read through it just to see what's there,
Mhm.
see what it's talking about. It's going to give you some lists of things to take note of when you're in a great space, when everything is going great. Um, I've got a page where you list out your favorite clothes to wear when you feel like crap. Like if it's a favorite pair of socks, a favorite pair of sweats, a favorite type of shirt, whatever it is. And then I want you to put that stuff aside, like put aside an outfit so that when you get into that mood, you have your favorite stuff. It's ready. You don't have to go like going through the laundry. It's already there and you already know it's going to work for you. And because you've done that work when you were feeling good, and you
Mhm.
notice you're feeling kind of crappy and you have that immediate go-to, well, now it doesn't feel as bad because, hey, I'm wearing my favorite clothes. Like I'm wearing my favorite sweatshirt. I'm
Mhm.
already feeling better. So you don't get to, you don't have the opportunity to go as deep and fall as far because you've already helped yourself. And because there's spaces and lists of things like that are specific to you, it's not, I'm going to provide you some ideas and rubrics about, um, like, what are your favorite comfort foods? What are some non-perishables that you can keep in your house that you can make a 5-minute meal without any thought? That you always keep those things stocked in your pantry so you don't have to worry or think about it.
Mhm.
Because you will have gone through and done those lists and thought about those things and done your preparation when you were in a good space, when it was easy. Um, when you get to that moment when things are really hard, you don't have to put so much effort into bringing you back to center.
Right.
The other thing, the reason why I think it's important to do the spiral is that there'll be times when you know you need something, but you don't know what you need. And so I
Mhm.
wanted it to be a book where you could just pull it, open it up to whatever page and whatever, like you could divine dip it, like whatever it's telling you to do, just do that. Like, doesn't matter if you feel like just do that because there's going
Mhm.
to be just the having engaged, like to have had enough presence of mind to love yourself enough to go get the book and just do the thing is such a tremendous act of self-love and self-care
Yeah. Big
that
win.
yeah, that's a huge win that you get to notch
Mhm.
immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that depressive episodes don't have their value because there are times when we just shut down because we need to process.
Mhm.
But there are also those times where we let ourselves spiral down so far that it feels like we'll never come back up, or we
Yeah.
fear that we will spiral so far that we won't come back. And so the idea is that you'll have a resource to go to that's me giving you prompts, but you having done the work when you were in a good space, that you are actually holding your own energy so that you can see and feel your own power in what works for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we are now. It's not so much about, I can share with you ideas about things that I've read in other books, but it really
Hmm.
is, we need something more active and more tangible.
Yeah.
And that's got to come from me. I've got to just work on this and, I've got
I
to,
love that. I want a copy.
done, done. Yeah, like, so I think, maybe we won't be reading from another book, but I'll be sharing with you pages from it as I'm working on it. I mean, I've already got a pretty solid draft.
Hmm.
Um, and so I could already start, there are already videos that I could start doing based on that. But
Hmm.
instead of going to some other book out there, it'll be me sharing with you pages and ideas from this so that you can build your library of different processes. And then at some point, I will actually have it finished and then I'll have something to present to other people that they'll be able to make use of.
Oh, that's
But I,
wonderful. I'm so glad to hear you say that.
yeah,
And
like
it's
that,
just,
I think that's where we are. Like um, we need to be more active participants.
yeah,
Yeah. And
I agree. I
at
agree.
whatever level, at whatever level we are, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what, if we talked about what these 16 years have been preparing us for, and we talk about, like, obviously the difficulty and the struggles that we've had have been the most perfect contrast environment to give us ideas about what we want and how we want things to be, right? And we've
Hmm.
kind of had that idea out there and like, this is what I'm moving towards. And, we talk about jumping timelines and all of that. These 16 years have given us enough contrast that we can very clearly define what it is we want to move into. And for each of us, at whatever level that is, now it's the time to move into that space.
Yes.
Um, and that's where, for me, it's going to be not reading someone else's book, but putting my ideas on paper to share with others because I can't sit with all this inside of me. It has to be shared because there's too much that too many
Yeah.
people can benefit from.
Yeah. And that's
And
that's
so,
why I created my YouTube channel, is because I
right,
have to start offloading all of this information that I have because I want to be able to help the most people
right.
possible.
And
Yeah.
people will find it as you all like, share, and subscribe,
Yes,
comment.
please.
That forces the algorithm to take notice and let people know that, hey, there's something special going here that more people need to know about.
Yes.
Um, Dude, watching videos to the end, that's also key. Like, do
Yes.
that. Like, let the
Yes.
algorithm know. And not, I mean, of course, we create this material so that you will sit and watch and listen and get something from it. But if you don't have an hour and 10 minutes, which is what this is looking like to be,
Mhm.
put it on in the background and let it play so that, again, the algorithm can see that, oh, people are watching this, so that
Yeah.
it starts to being pushed out to more people. Because
Yeah.
you might not have an hour and 10 minutes today, but somebody else who needs it will get it. I'll
Right.
share one last story and then we can cut this short, or,
Mhm.
cut where we are.
Mhm.
Um, I was guided to do a meditation. So I sat down and did the meditation, and I never know how long it's going to be because in this case, I was given like a sentence in a vision, like a 2-second vision of what I should be doing in the meditation. But I know that we have to build to that. And I know that once we do that, we have to like do something with it and then bring it back home. But I never know how long that's going to be when I sit down for meditation. But anyway, I sat down to do it and I was just in it, and it just kept going and going and it was feeling good. So we just kept going, and then until when it felt complete, we were done. And I posted it and I'm like, I don't know who needs this, but I mean, clearly I did, and maybe it helped somebody else. And I looked at the timestamp when it was done, it was 41 minutes. And I was like, the hell? Like, I can't sit right now for more than 15, 20 minutes. Like, I'm having a hard time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was like, wow, for me to be able to sit for 41 minutes and it felt like nothing, like clearly I needed that process. So I put the video up and I don't know who's going to see it. But in my other videos, I have been talking about the algorithm, and please, you all like, share, comment, subscribe because it makes a difference.
Yes, huge difference.
It really does, because I got a comment on that video the next day from someone that said, Today is my birthday, and I'm a long haul truck driver. Normally, I would be spending it with friends and family, but today I'm on the road and I'm working. And I'm sitting here with my donut, feeling depressed, singing happy birthday to myself. And somehow your video came across your feed. I decided to pull over and do the video, and I feel better. Thank you.
See, that's why we do this, you guys. That's
That's
why.
it. It's it's not about, oh, I want more subscribers. I want, it's no, it's that so that the people that need it get it,
Yes.
because life is too hard. And you know, it's great that there are major platforms on YouTube, but we all have something to share. Not everybody resonates with everybody. And for those who are on this path and resonate with this message, I need it to find you.
Yeah.
And that you are the reason I get up. You're the reason I do this.
Me too.
Exactly. Exactly. So put it on in the background, tell a friend about it, share a video, like the
Yeah.
video, subscribe. I mean, well, subscribe because you want to hear more, but um to like,
Yeah.
comment, I'm telling you, man, the difference
Yeah.
it makes. Not just to you, but to other people you haven't even met yet. And again, if we go back to this idea of I want to pray for world peace, your simple like, if it pushes this video out to somebody else who is then feeling better, then they're positively impacting their world. And that is how we get to world peace. That's how we fill in all those nooks and
Yes.
crannies of depravity and lack. And it seems
Yes.
so silly because it seems rather commercial that you links are in the description. I mean, but
Like, look, guys, we know,
I
okay?
know
But it's the only thing that we can do,
it's yeah,
and
it's the only way for now until we can come up with something better. And
right,
so join us in helping
right.
others.
Yes,
And I hope this
please.
helps you.
Please. Absolutely. I feel the exact same way, you guys. We just want to reach as many people as possible so that we can help them. And if you're watching the video and you don't like it and you don't comment, then it doesn't get out there. And we just want to reach as many people as possible so that
Yeah.
we can
And if you
impact their
don't tell us
lives.
what you like, if you don't tell us why you don't like it, then we
Then we
can't do
don't
anything about
know.
it. Yeah, like we
Right.
don't know what to fix. I mean, if somebody asked me if I would do live, so I'd answer questions about me, and I'm like, okay. But now I think about it, I'm like, I don't know. But I mean, I'm still gonna do it. I just have to like get myself there. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you ask for what you want, you might get it. And if something that doesn't please you, tell people or tell us at least why, because we're open to it, and maybe we can
Yeah.
address it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think we'll go ahead and end it on that note. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. Again, please subscribe, like, share the video, comment. It really helps it grow. Keisha, tell everyone where they can find you if they want any of your services.
Yes. Again, Instagram at textarot. In the link tree, I have a list of different types of readings and services offered. So you can go through that, or you can DM me and we can talk about what your issue is and um, figure out what the best thing is for you. You can also find me on YouTube at KT Lindsay or Wealth of Myself.
Hmm.
Um, and then further contact information, Zelle, PayPal, all of that is also in the description box. My email is there as well, so you can always reach out to me. Leaving a comment on the videos, I do see those, I do respond. So that's also a
I
way
do
to
too, to
reach
every
out.
single one. Yep,
Yeah.
every single one of mine. So you guys, same thing with me. Follow my link tree, my Calendly link. That's how you book appointments with me online, or you can DM me and we could set something up. I do mentoring, tarot reading, consultations, all of those things. The only thing that I cannot do online is my QHHT past life regressions. I'm sorry, those have to be done in person. If you're local to my area, that's absolutely it's against the rules to do them online. But everything else I can do online. So just get a hold of us. I'm going to be posting this. Keisha's going to be posting this on her channel. So if you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. If you have any ideas of anything else that you want us to talk about, please, we'd love to know. But until then, you guys, thank you so much and have a good day. Bye bye.